Welcome, truth seekers, to a special edition of Mystery Files Inc., where we dare to uncover the secrets that have long been hidden in the shadows. Today, we bring you a stunning revelation that will send shockwaves through the world of ufology and beyond. Prepare to delve into the depths of an astonishing leak, involving a scientist and their alleged involvement with extraterrestrial corpses. A Reddit post by a user who claims to have worked as a molecular biologist in a classified program studying Exo-Biospheric-Organisms, or EBOs, from the late 2000s to the mid-2010s. The user shares a wealth of information about these entities, from their genetic makeup to their physical characteristics and biological systems. This interview aims to delve deeper into this information, asking questions to further explore and understand the fascinating details shared in the post. Please note that the information presented is based on the Reddit user's claims and should be approached with an open but critical mind. Now, let's dive into the intriguing world of EBOs as described by our Reddit poster. Question: can you tell us about your background and how you got involved in this program? Answer: I have a PhD in molecular biology. I didn't actively seek to be part of this program. It was a stroke of luck that introduced me to one of the senior scientists at a conference where I was presenting a poster on my PhD research. After a series of interviews, I was presented with a non-disclosure agreement, NDA, and began working in the program. Question: what was the aim of the program you were working on? Answer: the aim of the program was to study Exo-Biospheric-Organisms, EBOs, and elucidate the genome and proteome basis of these organisms. We discovered that the EBO genome is a chimera of genomes from our biosphere and from an unknown one. They are artificial, ephemeral, and disposable organisms created for a purpose that still partially eludes us. Question: can you describe your first few weeks on the job? Answer: the first few weeks were memorable, although I spent most of that time in a depressing archive room. It consisted almost exclusively of reading about the subject of study and getting up to speed. There's no secret Wikipedia or even a reference book to guide us. There were only dry reports, memos, presentations, procedures, and SOPs. Question: can you tell us about the team you were working with and the laboratory where you worked? Answer: I worked with a team of around 20 scientists, 4 senior scientists, and a director. The laboratory was located in Fort Detrick, Maryland, in a building used for legitimate biomedical research. The clandestine operations were carried out in a restricted part of the basement, out of sight from regular workers. Question: why did you decide to disclose this information? Answer: I believe that every human being has the right to know the truth, and that to progress, humanity needs to divest itself of certain institutions and organizations that will probably not survive these revelations in the long term. I chose to divulge what I know anonymously out of selfishness for the well-being of myself and my family. Question: what kind of documents were you reading during your initial weeks? Answer: the documents were almost exclusively about the biology of EBOs, but there were also a few that dealt with other subjects such as their food, religion, or culture. Question: can you describe your role and responsibilities during your time working with the EBOs? Answer: I worked as a molecular biologist in a classified program studying EBOs. My main task was to study their genetics and biochemistry, and to understand how their biological systems function. Question: can you describe the physical appearance of the EBOs? Answer: the EBOs are morphologically very similar to the gray aliens that are part of modern folklore. Their height is about 150 centimeters. They have 2 arms, 2 legs and a head. The gray skin that is often described in folklore is in fact a biosynthetic film which, likely, serves to protect the EBO from a hostile environment. Question: can you describe the EBO's gross anatomy? Answer: they are morphologically very similar to the gray aliens that are part of modern folklore. Under the gray film, the epidermis is rather white, and the texture is very regular and without any hair. The head contains 2 large, oversized eyes, 2 nostrils without protuberance, a narrow mouth without lips, and 2 ear canals without auricles. There is a mandible, but the musculature is vestigial. There are no teeth or tongue in the oral cavity. The nasal cavity where the nostrils meet is compact and does not rise cranially but extends axially. The mouth leads directly to the esophagus and the nasal cavity to the trachea. The trachea and esophagus do not communicate. Their hands have 4 digits, including an opposable thumb on the medial side. They have no nails, and the texture of their fingerprints is composed of concentric circles. Fingers are proportionally much longer than in humans. Unlike humans, finger musculature is entirely intrinsic to the hand. In other words, the muscles used to move the fingers are not in the forearms but entirely located in the hands. At first glance, the feet consist of just 2 digits, but a necropsy soon determined that each toe was made of 2 fused digits. The medial toe is marginally longer than the distal toe. The feet are relatively longer and narrower than in a human. Question: can you elaborate more on the EBO's skin and its characteristics? There are a lot of pores on the skin, crossing from the epidermis to a gland in the hypodermis. These glands and pores are the terminal part of the excretory sudoriferous system. Question: can you describe the EBO's eyes in more detail? Answer: the eyes are covered with a semi-transparent biosynthetic film that offers the same environmental protection, while providing protection against certain wavelengths and light intensity. When the film is removed, a more traditional eye is revealed. It's about 3 times larger than a human eye and there are no eyelids. The size of their eyes suggests they have excellent night vision. Their sclera is the same color as their skin. The iris is pale gray, and the pupil is black and oversized. The lens is rounder than a human, and the musculature used to adjust focus is more developed. On the retina, there are at least 6 types of cone cells. Question: what about the EBO's ear? How does it function? Answer: the outer ear has no auricle and the ear canal is unremarkable. The inner ear has all the characteristics of a typical vestibular and cochlear system, although the curvature of the cochlea is more pronounced than a human. This probably results in greater hearing acuity for low frequencies. Question: can you provide some insights about the EBO's brain? Answer: the brain is tetraspheric, i.e. composed of 4 major sections. The sections are separated by transverse and longitudinal fissures and are connected to the central lobe, which acts as brainstem and cerebellum. The volume of the brain is around 20% superior to that of a man of the same height. It has a much more pronounced level of gyrication than an average human. Moreover, the ratio of glial cells to neurons is also slightly higher than in humans. It is important to mention the presence of nodules on the central lobe. Histological analysis of these structures reveals a kind of intricate biological circuitry. It is speculated that these nodules are essential to interact with their technology. Question: can you describe the EBO's neck? Answer: the neck is proportionally longer than that of a human, and at the same time relatively thin. There are no vocal cords in this region. Muscles equivalent to the pectoralis major can be seen. We can also see the trapezius and deltoid muscles. The sternocleidomastoids are well defined. The ribs and sternum are clearly visible. There are no nipples. Question: what about the EBO's abdomen and pelvis? Can you describe those? Answer: the abdomen is wider than the thorax and bulges slightly forward. There is no navel. The pelvic bones are apparent. There are no genitals or anus. Question: what about the EBO's endoskeleton? How is it similar or different to ours? Answer: the EBO's endoskeleton is very similar to ours, at least in terms of composition. There's collagen, hydroxyapatite but also copper oxide crystals where marrow would normally be found. The role of these crystals has not been established, but it is not a crystallopathic condition. The blood cells of the myeloid lineage, or the equivalent for these creatures, therefore mature in a different location than in humans, i.e. in the thymus-like organ. A transverse section of the bone reveals osteon and osteocytes. There appear to be few osteoblasts and no osteoclasts. This indicates that the bones are no longer growing and cannot absorb the minerals present or adapt mechanically to changes in posture. Question: can you explain the genetic compatibility between EBOs and humans? Answer: the EBO's genetics are based on the same genetic system as ours, and they're even compatible with our own cellular machinery. This means that you can take a human gene and insert it into an EBO cell, and that gene will be translated into protein. However, there are important differences in post-translational modifications that can make the final protein non-functional. The EBO genome consists of 16 circular chromosomes. Question: what is unique about the EBO genome? Answer. The EBO genome is notable for the uniformity of its intergenic regions, which are DNA sequences that don't code for proteins. These regions are evolutionary residues, transposons, inactivated genes, and so on. In the EBO genome, the same sequences are repeated everywhere, and the distance in base pairs, BP, between the genes is virtually the same throughout their genome. This results in a minimalist, highly condensed genome that is much smaller than ours. The quantity of protein-coding genes is even significantly lower than ours, probably due to genetic refinement but also to biological processes that are absent in EBO. The uniformity of these sequences is a major indication of the artificiality of these beings. Question. Can you elaborate on the tripalindromic region, TPR, in the EBO genome? Answer. The TPR are 134 BP sequences containing 3 palindromes. In genetics, a palindrome is a DNA sequence that when read in the same direction, gives the same sequence on both DNA strands. They serve both as a flag and as a binding site for proteins. The TPR is composed, in 5' 3' order, of 5' pTPR, 12 BP spacer, chromosomal address, 12 BP spacer, mTPR, 12 BP spacer, gene address, 12 BP spacer, and 3' TPR. The chromosomal address is composed of 4 BP and is identical in each TPR of the same chromosome, but distinct between each of the 16 chromosomes of the genome. The gene address is a 64 BP sequence that is unique for each gene in the whole genome. This is completely unheard of in our biosphere and can only be explained by genetic engineering on a genomic scale. Question. How does the EBO cell line named EPIG11 function? Answer. The EBOs have a cell line named EPIG11 derived from epithelial tissues. With this tool, we were able to transfect and overexpress proteins of interest in order to eventually purify and study them. EPIG11, like most eukaryotic cell lines, enters a phase of exponential growth when exposed to fetal bovine serum. Question. Can you tell us more about the EBO's genome? How does it compare to the human genome? Answer. The EBO genome is much smaller than ours, and the quantity of protein-coding genes is even significantly lower than ours, probably due to genetic refinement but also to biological processes that are absent in EBO. The uniformity of these sequences is a major indication of the artificiality of these beings. There is no complex organism on Earth that has such elegance in its sequences. There is no evolutionary pressure that can lead to this kind of characteristic other than genetic engineering. Some genes correspond directly, nucleotide by nucleotide, with known human genes or even some animal genes. For these genes, there doesn't seem to be any artificial refinement but rather a crude copying and pasting. There are also many genes which are not found in our biosphere whose role has not been identified. Question. Can you elaborate on the EBO's mitochondrial genome? Answer. At the time I was working there, the mitochondrial genome had not yet been sequenced. It's safe to assume that this genome would also be streamlined and possibly has some version of TPR. Question. Can you describe the process of transcription and translation and protein expression in EBOs? Answer. Much like ours, their genes have silencers, enhancers, promoters, 5' UTRs, exons, introns, 3' UTRs, etc. There are many genes analogous to ours, which is not surprising given the compatibility of our cellular machinery. Obtaining a viable protein from a DNA sequence is a complex process involving hundreds of protein intermediates, each with a precise and essential role. A minor variation in this assembly line can lead to functional irregularities in the final product. So, it's no surprise that there are setbacks along the way when the first EBO gene transfection attempts failed to produce the desired functional protein in human cell lines. Fortunately for us, the work of what I imagine to be another team at another site has led to the development of an EBO cell line named EPIG11 derived from epithelial tissues. With this tool in our hands, we were able to transfect and overexpress proteins of interest in order to eventually purify and study them. Question. Can you tell us more about the EBO's endoskeleton? Answer. The EBO's endoskeleton is very similar to ours, at least in terms of composition. There's collagen, hydroxyapatite, but also copper oxide crystals where marrow would normally be found. The role of these crystals has not been established, but it is not a crystallopathic condition. The blood cells of the myeloid lineage, or the equivalent for these creatures, therefore mature in a different location than in humans, i.e. in the thymus-like organ. A transverse section of the bone reveals osteon and osteocytes. There appear to be few osteoblasts and no osteoclasts. This indicates that the bones are no longer growing and cannot absorb the minerals present or adapt mechanically to changes in posture. Question: can you describe the EBO's respiratory system? Answer: their cellular respiration is equivalent to ours, i.e. they need to oxidize organic components to produce energy. Their lungs have no reciprocating action, but rather have a unidirectional flow of air, similar to those seen in birds, which is more efficient than ours. It is speculated that this is in response to the brain's elevated metabolic needs. Vocalization is produced by vibration of the wall membrane at the junction between the two air sacs. Question: can you describe the EBO's circulatory system? Answer: the circulatory system of EBOs is rather analogous to ours. The heart is located in the mediastinum, but in a more medial position, directly beneath the sternum. The heart has two ventricles and two atria. There is an aorta, a pulmonary vein, a pulmonary artery, and a vena cava. Blood flowing to the pulmonary capillaries via the pulmonary artery is pumped against the flow of air, maximizing gas exchange efficiency. Question: can you describe the EBO's circulatory system? Then oxygen-rich blood is returned to the heart and then expelled into the aorta and the rest of the body. Before returning to the heart, the blood will pass through the hepatorenal organ which, among other things, filters and controls osmotic pressure of the blood. Question: can you describe the EBO's excreto-sudoriferous system? Answer: this system is completely different from what I've seen. As mentioned earlier, there is no anus or genitals. There are a lot of pores on the skin, crossing from the epidermis to a gland in the hypodermis. These glands and pores are the terminal part of the excretory sudoriferous system, which could explain the previously mentioned smell of burnt hair and ammonia when the biosynthetic film is removed from the skin. Question: what can you tell us about the EBO's reproductive system? Answer: the EBOs do not have a reproductive system as we understand it. There are no genitals, and from what we understand, they reproduce through a form of genetic engineering. This is suggested by the uniformity and precision of their genome, which includes features like the tri-palindromic region that serve as unique addresses for each gene and its chromosomal location. Question: what is the current understanding of the EBO's lifespan and aging process? Answer: we don't have a clear understanding of the EBO's lifespan or aging process. However, the absence of osteoclasts in their bones indicates that the bones are no longer growing and cannot absorb the minerals present or adapt mechanically to changes in posture. This could suggest that the EBOs we've studied are fully mature and do not age in the same way humans do. Question: can you tell us more about the EBOs' interaction with their technology? Answer: it is speculated that the nodules present on the central lobe of the EBO's brain are essential to interact with their technology. Histological analysis of these structures reveals a kind of intricate biological circuitry. Determining the proteome of these structures is an absolute priority for the program, as it could provide insights into how the EBOs interact with their technology. Question: what is the current understanding of the EBO's diet and nutrition? Answer: the EBOs do not eat or drink in the way humans do. They have a narrow mouth without lips that leads directly to the esophagus, and there are no teeth or tongue in the oral cavity. The specifics of their nutrition are not well understood, but given the high glucose levels in their blood, it's possible they have a unique method of nutrient intake. Question: can you describe the EBO's sensory capabilities? Answer: the EBOs have excellent night vision, suggested by the size of their eyes. Their eyes are covered with a semi-transparent biosynthetic film that offers protection against certain wavelengths and light intensity. On the retina, there are at least 6 types of cone cells, suggesting a broader visible spectrum. Their hearing acuity for low frequencies is likely greater than humans, given the more pronounced curvature of the cochlea. However, there appears to be no equivalent to the olfactory bulb in the nasal cavity, which might suggest a different or less developed sense of smell. Question: you mentioned that the EBOs are artificial, ephemeral, and disposable organisms. Can you elaborate on what you mean by this? Answer: based on our research, we've discovered that the EBO genome is a chimera of genomes from our biosphere and from an unknown one. This suggests that these organisms are not naturally occurring but are created, possibly through some form of genetic engineering. They seem to be ephemeral and disposable, indicating that they may have been created for a specific purpose that still partially eludes us. Question: what is the current understanding of the EBO's immune system? Answer: the specifics of the EBO's immune system are not well understood. Question: can you tell us more about the EBO's genetic engineering capabilities? Answer: the EBOs appear to have advanced genetic engineering capabilities. The uniformity and precision of their genome, including features like the tri-palindromic region that serve as unique addresses for each gene and its chromosomal location, suggest a level of genetic engineering far beyond our current capabilities. It's possible that EBO geneticists can insert or remove a gene from a cell in a way that is far more targeted and efficient than our technology allows. Question: can you provide any insights into the EBO's belief systems or religion, if they have any? Answer: unfortunately, the post does not provide any information regarding the EBO's belief systems or religion. This concludes our interview. Thank you for joining us again on Mystery Files Inc. As we embark on this riveting exploration, remember to keep an open mind, question everything, and seek the truth that lies just beyond the shadows. Join us in the next chapter of Mystery Files Inc. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, or subscribe.